All right, welcome to class here today. This is going to be a lesson that's going to be for Workplace 20 and Workplace 30. This is in both courses, so I'm going to go over simple and compound interest, give you a quick lesson. I do have some videos where I do questions for you, and if you're in my class, I can give you a hand afterwards. But for this video, I'm going to highlight what simple interest is and what the difference between simple and compound interest is, and how to use the formulas. So in Workplace 20, it's 6.2. That's where simple interest starts, so I'll start here. If you borrow some money, okay, and someone charges you interest, there are two types of interest that you could be charged. First of all, interest is the amount of extra money you have to pay for the ability to borrow that money. So for example, if I'm buying a house and I don't happen to have $350,000 in my pocket, I need to go talk to a bank or a mortgage company and say, listen, I need to borrow a whole bunch of money. They'll say, no problem, you can have this long to pay it back. Oh, by the way, you're going to have to pay us extra just for the use of our money. And that's what interest is. So if you borrow 10 bucks from a friend and they say, you can borrow 10 bucks, but you're going to owe me 11 bucks if you don't pay it by next week. Well, that's interest. Now, I wouldn't encourage you to charge your friends interest. That doesn't make for healthy relationships. However, that's what it would be called, right? Okay? So if you owe interest, that means it's the cost of borrowing the money. Okay? It's the extra stuff that you have to pay for the right to take that money now. So simple interest is this. Simple interest is found by taking the principal, so the P in this formula right here, okay, is principal. Okay? Principal. That's not the kind of the bleeder of the school. It's the original amount of money that is either invested or borrowed. Now, here's the flip side. If you borrow money, you have to pay interest. But if you invest money, and that's why you hear about investments and things like that. If you invest money, that means if you give the bank your money or give some company your money or put your money somewhere, you will get interest paid back to you. And that's the thank you for letting them use your money. So it works both ways, right? The principal, though, is the original amount. So that goes right here, P. If you're trying to find what the interest is, so look at I is the amount of interest here. So what you do is you take the principal and you multiply P times R. Whoa, what's R? R, whoops, I guess it zoomed in too much here. R is the annual interest rate as a decimal. So let's say we have something like, 3% interest, 3% per year. Well, then R is 0.03. It's the decimal form of that percent, okay? So you've got your principal times the decimal form of the percent, and then the T is the term of the investment. So term is the length of time that you're going to invest or the length of time it's going to take you to pay back, okay? That's the whole total amount of time before everything is settled, the term, okay? So the interest part is the principal times the rate per year times the number of years, really. Okay? If you're taking a look at A here is the final value of the investment. So again, this example is investment. So let's say I put in $1,000 in a Canada Savings bond or something like that. That's my principal. Okay? Whatever interest that CSB earns over the term, I add those together, and that's the total value of my investment. If I'm borrowing $350,000 for a house and I have to pay the interest back over 20 years, I'm going to be paying like 50 grand or something. So I'm going to the house is 350, I'm going to be paying 400 or something, let's just say, as a quick example. And you're thinking, oh my goodness, $50,000, yeah. If you're borrowing a lot of money and you're letting that money, basically you're not paying that back for a long period of time, it is accumulating interest. Now, mortgage payments or big things like that, most things are not simple interest. And what's the difference? Well, simple interest is a percentage of the principal. Always. So let's say that your friend borrows 10 bucks from you and you say, I'm going to charge you 10% simple interest per week. So simple interest means 10% of the money that was borrowed. So 10% of $10 is what? Anybody? 10 cents? Not 10 cents, not quite. It's $1. It's 1/10 of $10 is $1, okay? So I can write this down. So you got 10 bucks, right? The interest, okay, the interest here for 1 week is going to be $1. So, whoa, where'd it go? The interest for 1 week is $1. Okay? Now, if the friend takes 2 weeks to pay it back, well then guess what? You've got another dollar that guy or friend owes you. And then it's another dollar that friend owes you, and so on. So it just keeps. Now, this number never changes. Simple interest is always going back to the principal. Okay? That's why it's a simpler formula. It's the same amount all the time. If you owe $1 a week, ow. If you owe $1 a week, I just totally cranked my podium here. If you owe $1 a week and it takes you 4 weeks to pay it back, you owe $4 in interest, or 10 plus 4. Yes, $14 in total. Okay? Now, that's simple interest. All right? There's your formulas. I equals PRT. So if your principal is $5,000, if it's 3% per year over 2 years, that's what we got here for this example, then it's 5,000 times 0.03 times 2. So your interest is $300. That's just the interest over the 2 years. $150 a year. 2 years, 300. The total is 5,000 plus the 300 of interest right here. So that's simple. Now I want to flip over to compound interest, and I'm going to flip over now to the Workplace 30 workbook where we're talking about compound interest. So this formula is a little bit more complex, right? It's not as simple as the simple interest formula. Now don't start to cry, okay? Please don't cry. This is not that bad. But let me explain to you why this formula is a little bit more complicated. Okay? Yes, I'm talking about you. Please don't cry. Yeah, please? Okay. It's a little more complicated because, okay, are you ready for this now? Ready for this? All right. Let's go back to this example. Okay? You and your friend. You lend your friend $10 and you're charging 10% interest. First of all, you're a terrible friend, okay? Because that's way too much interest. Per week? That's terrible. You're awful, okay? I mean, I'm just saying. But let's say that it's not simple interest. It's not $1 a week until you pay it back. No, it's compound interest. Ooh, how does that change things? Well, compound interest, you may know this, right?
Yes.
Okay, do you want to give us a quick go?
Compound interest is you don't go back to the original $10, you take it off the amount that is owed afterwards.
Thank you. I'm going to repeat that for the video. You do not always go back to the original amount to calculate the interest percentage. You go to the last amount that you owe and you keep building on that. So watch this. So $10. After one week, your friend owes you $1 in interest, or 10% of $10. Okay, so now guess what? The friend owes you $11. So guess what? Times 0.1 is what? That's $1.10. So guess what? After 2 weeks, the friend owes you $1.10 in interest. Wow, so now he owes you, or she owes you, $12.10. Oh my. Times 0.1. Oh, what's 0.1 of this? 121. Oh my. I owe more interest this week. And now it's 1331. You see how this is working? It's compound. It does not go back to the original amount always. It goes back to the new amount owing. Always goes back to the new amount. It's 10% of the new amount owing. So instead of the principal taking a percentage of the principal every week, you're taking a percentage of the last amount owing. So this amount owing grows, the percentage is actually more money. The amount owing grows again, the percentage is actually a bigger chunk. So compound interest on a mortgage, yeah. So, yeah, well, you are continuously paying it off, but the mortgage companies, they get you. They get you. They charge all of your interest at the beginning of the term so that they get their money, all their money first, and then you're left with a big principal still, and the money that you pay off every month, most of it goes to the interest. Only a little bit goes to pay down your principal. So your principal is still sitting there big and fat for a long time. It only goes down just a little bit so they can pull as much interest as they can, okay? So yeah, if you want to start a mortgage company, like I don't know, if you have a few $1 million and you want to start a mortgage company and lend that money out to some friends, okay, remember, you're a terrible friend already, so you just charge a big amount of interest and you're good. So you lend that out and then you make all this interest, right? So that's for when you have a few $1 million just in your hanging around. Right. Okay, and if you have any friends left, that's true, okay? A few $1 million should earn you a few friends. If they borrow money from you, then, you know, they may not be your friends for long, but whatever. All right, let's tear down this this right here. I've done this in my other videos. I've done some examples. You can watch other videos for a sample question. But let me just end this part with the breakdown of this formula. Okay, A is the total amount owing. Okay, so that is your principal plus all the accumulated interest. And how do we find that? Well, we take our principal amount and we multiply this by, okay, so what's inside the brackets here? This is 1 plus, now R is the interest rate per year, okay? I think actually, instead of me writing this out again, I think this is on the paper somewhere. Let me just, oh, here we go. A is the amount of money that you have to repay for the loan, so that's the total amount of money. And I am just going to, just give me 1 second. I'm just going to clip this little formula here. Thank you. Clippity, clippity, clippity clop. Sounds like a horse, right? Okay, yeah, exactly. Not sure why it made me think of a horse, but come on now. Okay, come on. I don't want you there. I want you up here. A little bit further. Keep coming. All right. Good job. Good horsey. Okay. All right. What? Good horsey? You don't like that? All right. So A, the total amount, principal and all the accumulated interest. R is the annual interest rate as a decimal. So same as the R in your simple interest, right? Now we've got this N here. This N. N is the number of compounding periods per year. So the compounding periods, look over to the right here, it's the time between calculations of interest. So credit cards. Let's talk about credit cards. Okay, if you have a credit card, anybody have a credit card in here? I don't know if you guys can yet. Can you? Can you actually have a credit card before you're 18? I don't know. You guys are 18. What? How come you have a credit card? What, do you lie about your debit card's not the same?
It's very different. Debit card is a lot.
Boy, I thought you lied about your age. I really did. Oh, good for you, not for lying about your age. Excellent. Okay, so
Just lying about what you
so credit cards. Let's talk about credit cards, okay? There's a grace period for credit cards. Hey, that's great. But if you don't pay your credit card off, they really get you in interest. And interest is compounded, get this, daily. Daily. So every day they go back, oh, what do you owe? Oh, good, let's take a chunk of that and add it on. Okay, good. Next day, nice, they haven't paid it yet. Let's take a bigger chunk of that. Oh, good. Keeps adding up. So you got to be careful about credit cards. Now, what it is though is, look at this. The annual interest rate, okay, is divided by the number of compounding periods. If it's compounded daily, that N is 365. If it's compounded monthly, it's 12. If it's compounded quarterly, how many times is that in a year? 4. Okay, so on. So that's what N is. Now you might think, okay, if I'm getting charged 22% interest, which is a lot, but that's what credit cards do. They're upwards of 19 to 22, something like that, yeah? And you're thinking, well, listen, 22% divided by 365, that's not a lot, Mr. Maxwell. And it isn't a lot, but when you get added that every single day it goes by, trust me, it's happened to me, okay? Personal story, I had a credit card for a certain lumber store in town, which I won't mention the name, but I used this card because I was getting a little bit of a free pair of gloves or something, or, you know, all that stuff. So I used this card, and I was redoing my basement, finishing my own basement. I was buying all these materials. I had this huge bill on this card. I put it on the card, and I forgot to pay it. It was over Christmas, and after Christmas holidays, I realized I didn't pay by the kind of the date where the end of the grace period was. So interest had kicked in, and then it went all the way back to the very beginning and calculated every day. Boom, interest. So I owed like, oh, what was it? It was like I owed like $200 or something. Boom, just like that, interest, because I was like a day late. So please be careful. Like credit cards, anyways, this isn't a lecture about credit cards, but like I use credit cards, people use credit cards, and you can get points for your favorite stores, or you can rack up air miles, or you can, get all these free things or whatever, but you got to be careful. You got to pay your credit cards off, okay? Don't let the money sit on there, okay? Because people have gotten into real serious trouble with credit card debt. It's terrible. Pay those things off, okay? If you ever get a credit card, which you will, probably.
So what you're saying is they don't go from when you, the grace period ends?
All right, where are we at? T. Okay, T is the term in years. So compounding periods per year. And this part right here, this NT, right? That is the like total number of compounding periods. This N is per year, compounding periods per year. And then when you multiply by the years, that's the total number of compounding periods. So let's say we've got monthly, okay, monthly, that's 12 per year. And let's say the term is 5 years. So what is this value right here? N times T is 12 times 5, or 60. So you take your principal and you have your little interest number here, and then you take that to the power of 60. Okay, so it just keeps multiplying. Like, let's say it's 1.01. You multiply that by itself 60 times. You know what I mean? That number grows and grows and grows. Multiply, that's your total. So compound interest builds pretty quick. Questions? Okay, like I say, I'm probably not gonna, on this video, probably won't go through the question. There's another video where you can go through some problems with me, so I won't do that here just now. But that's your little lesson on simple versus compound interest, okay? And what have we learned? Don't leave debt on credit cards. Be a good friend, right? Don't charge interest to your friends. That's right.
A lot of money work at the bank.
If you want a lot of money work at the bank, yeah, banks, yeah. Oh, don't get me on banks, man. Banks, oh. Yeah, the profits for the banks are like how many billions of dollars. I look at my statement, I'm like, really? You took that much every month from me? Man, just so I could have your dumb little card? Give me a break. Anyways, if any banks are listening, I apologize. Not really. Okay. There we go. That's it.
Like
Go to MrMaxwell.com.
that too.
MrMaxwell.com? I wish I had that site. I don't have that site, sorry.
Mr.
MrMathWell.com.
Oh.